Welcome back to episode 22 of Blurred Summits. Today we're talking about burnout and overtraining. So understanding what burnout is, its characteristics, signs and symptoms of burnout, as well as how to deal with burnout. So Abdul, let's start off with what is staleness versus burnout, since lots of people seem to get the two kind of mixed in with one another.
Yeah. So staleness is... So by definition, staleness is a psychological state of overtraining, which manifests into deteriorated readiness. Basically, what this is saying is when you're stale, it's when you've been overtraining and working super, super hard for a long period of time that your performance is now decreasing because you haven't, taken any rest, gotten any breaks, right?
Yeah, and this is what students seem to always think they're saying, right?
Exactly.
Everyone's like, oh, I'm so burnt out. What it is they're just...
They're
tired
stale.
and exhausted and
because
stale.
Burnout is actually a lot more serious, right? So what burnout by definition is the physical, emotional, and social withdrawal from a formerly enjoyable activity. So what burnout actually is it's like you've hit the breaking point and it's almost like the point of no return at this point, right?
Okay, yeah.
And so that's the big difference between burnout and staleness is most of the time when we say, oh, I'm so burnt out, all this kind of stuff, we're not actually burnt out. We're just stale and we just need a break and we just need to reset a little bit.
Yeah.
And then that motivation will be back up versus if you're burnt out, that's almost like a point of no return.
Like that, you have to go get professional help or something to kind of just reverse it or take like a massive break or something.
Sometimes professional help doesn't even work. Like I've heard this story of a professional athlete, Olympic athlete, who hit the point of burnout and they took 5 or 6 years off the sport.
Yeah.
They went off, they took that time and recuperated, started new projects, that kind of stuff. When they came back to the sport, they played for 2 months and then quit permanently, right? It's one of those things that once you hit burnout, it's like it leaves a bad taste in your mouth. That taste doesn't seem to go away forever. I'm sure there are some people who might have been able to come back from it, but it's like something that you want to avoid by all means necessary.
So it's like you broke your engine in your car and you're trying to use duct tape to fix it up. So it's just bound to break and fall off again.
Like if the engine's broken, sometimes you just have to toss the car out. Yeah. Right?
Another issue is, you, like with us, you don't get a replacement car.
Yeah, you're just screwed. You just
got to
no
walk
car.
everywhere.
You just got to ride
Take
the
public
bus.
transit.
Exactly.
So what are some of the key characteristics that kind of you can look for in burnout or what you have to be careful for?
So burnout has 3 primary characteristics. First characteristic of burnout is exhaustion. This is emotional and physical exhaustion. This is when a person, they lose interest, they lose their concern. Most of the time they lose trust in the people around them. Like if it's an athlete, they'll lose trust in their coach. If it's a student, they'll lose trust in their teachers. They become very cynical and very paranoid almost. The second characteristic of burnout is depersonalization and devaluation. This is basically when a person loses their personality, right? And they stop caring about things that they used to care about. If they were super extroverted, maybe they're not as extroverted as much anymore. If they really cared about their friendships, they stop caring about those friendships, that kind of stuff, right?
Yeah.
And the third characteristic of burnout is feeling of low personal accomplishment. So this is those decreases in performance levels, decreases in productivity, that kind of stuff.
Okay,
so those are the 3 big ones.
These 3 all seem to tie in super close together with one another, right? It's like if one starts to go, the other kind of innately have to go down with it, right?
Yeah, these are the 3 big, what do they call them? The 3 big indicators that if these are the 3 major signs. If you see these 3 signs at the same time, then you're screwed.
Well, yeah. Well, I keep thinking if you lose one of these, if you get the exhaustion, I feel like it's unlikely to see someone who's personalized and out, right? Like someone who's out and feeling like themselves if they're exhausted.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. A lot of them, they're intertwined.
I feel like, it's as soon as it hits like a wall, it seems like, right? You don't slowly lose one and then the other and then the other. Mm-hmm. They all just drop out from underneath you at the same time, it seems like.
It's a really proactive approach to take with burnout because you don't want to reach the point where you hit it, right? As we mentioned, it's almost a point of no return. So these are signs and characteristics that you want to watch out for. If you're feeling emotionally and physically exhausted for long periods of time, that's when you need to kind of, whoa, what's going on here? Take a step back.
Take a look and see if some of the other things are happening, right? And see if it's these are some cues that this could be on its way, right? It's all about prevention more so than fixing it once it happens when it seems like this.
Yeah,
right?
yeah, exactly. So signs and symptoms. So we'll break the signs and symptoms of burnout into two big categories. Your physical and then like your psychological, social, that kind of stuff. So physical, I'll just run through these really quickly. Physical signs of burnout: sleep disturbance, appetite loss, decreased performance, and greater fatigue and tiredness. Right?
Yeah. Yeah, I think, again, lots of these ones are all, you could think it's something else, right?
Mm-hmm.
You just be like, oh, I'm not feeling like myself, so I'm not hungry. I'm not going to eat. Sleep disturbance, yeah, it's like, oh, it's a lot on my mind. Oh, well,
You
it's
could just be
that.
having a really tough time. Like the thing that's tough is a lot of the signs and symptoms overlap with things that with other sorts of, maybe mental health problems, that kind
Yeah.
of stuff.
And it's like, yeah, with decreased performance, you're like, oh, worse performance because I'm not eating and I'm not sleeping very good, right? You're like, okay,
Mhm.
it must be that. And then with, greater fatigue and tired, again, they're all intertwined, right?
Mhm.
Oh, I guess I'm not sleeping, I'm not eating, I'm not performing very well. I guess I'm tired because of that, right?
Yeah.
And you don't actually tie it back to what the true cause is, which is you could be on your way to burnout.
Exactly. Yeah, and you could have some of these signs and symptoms and be stale, at which point you want to take a pause and regroup before you hit that breaking point. But these are definitely signs and symptoms to watch out for in yourself. More importantly, to watch out for in other people,
Mm-hmm.
right? Especially if people are obsessive with their activities, like if they're a super hardcore student or super hardcore athlete, that kind of stuff, they might be going through these things and they're in denial and they just deny the fact that they have a problem.
Yeah.
So it's kind of your responsibility to watch out for those. So what about some of the psychological signs and symptoms, right? First of all, we have apathy, which is not caring. The person stops caring about everything around them, right?
Yep.
The person has increased tension. They seem stiffer. They don't seem as relaxed when they're around other people, when they're doing their activity, when they're performing. They seem to be very tensed up and uncomfortable, right?
Mm-hmm.
And next we have greater dejection, which basically just means greater likelihood of depression, right? They're depressed, they're anxious, these kinds of mental states, they're more likely to be in them. Last but not least, concentration loss, right? People who hit that breaking point, they're going to have decreased concentration, and they're going to have decreased performance as a result of it.
Well, these are all things, too, that can happen in staleness, right?
They do have
Like, because staleness is what basically the stepping stone towards.
Yeah, staleness is kind of like you see a lot of the same signs and symptoms and results of burnout, but there is a potential to come back from it, right?
Like, if you continue to be stale and just keep fighting it out,
Then
you're
you're
ground to
screwed.
burn out, right?
Exactly.
You're just setting yourself up to break down.
The difference between staleness and burnout fundamentally is that you can come back from staleness, but it's almost impossible to come back from burnout, right?
So it's like stage 1, stage 2 sort of thing.
Exactly. Right, so factors relating to burnout. So what are some of the fundamental factors that relate to our burnout? A big one is pressure from external sources. If you're a student, this could be pressure from your teacher. If you're an athlete, it's pressure from your coach. If you're a kid, it's pressure from your parents. And all these people who are talking in your ear, telling you what to do, where to go, all this kind of stuff, that kind of pressure is going to, put you on a fast track to burnout.
Well, yeah, it's pressure and high expectations. I mean, it's good to have that, but I think if they just continually put it on you without giving you a chance to breathe, take a break, do kind of things that let you be like, especially like the kid example, be a kid, right? You're not going to be able to get that time to recharge and kind of take a breather from life and all those crazy things that are going on, right?
Yeah, this is especially true in really young athletes. Like parents raise a child and they want this child to be a soccer star, a basketball star, whatever it might be. They put a ton of pressure on this child to perform, right? And when a ton of that pressure is exerted continuously for years, eventually that kid is going to hit a breaking point. It might not be when they're young. It might be when they're 20. It might be when they're 30 years old. But they're not going to be successful in the sport like they otherwise would have been.
Yeah, because like with all that pressure, I mean, sure, it does make you, I guess, better to an extent. But then it breaks after a certain point, right? Like it's only to a certain point that you can improve from the pressure.
Yeah. Yeah, it helps short term in performance. but long term, it's extremely destructive.
Yeah.
Yeah. The second factor is hard training consistently, right? It's okay to train hard and to go through periods of slight overtraining, so long as those are planned out and followed by periods of long rest, right?
Yeah.
The issue comes when you train hard consistently. There is no break days, there is no stop, and you continuously go on and on and on. That is going to increase your likelihood of burnout significantly.
Well, that's like when you're running your car, right? You're running your car and you're almost racing someone, pedal to the metal, you're in the red zone on your rev meter.
Yeah.
And you just keep it there and keep it there and keep it there. You're bound to blow the engine up eventually, right? The engine's going to go, car's going to break down, and you're going to be screwed.
Yeah.
The same goes for that, right? That's when you're in that red zone, you're working 100 miles a minute, going as hard as you can. You're bound to break down if you do that. You got to let off the pedal, slow down, get down to the 1, 2, just calm it down, take a breather, right?
Exactly.
And then you can go again, right? Like you go down, get back up, you can do it.
And you'll be able to go a further distance should you do that. You know,
Yeah.
your engine isn't going to explode on you.
Exactly.
Yeah. Used to say Bruce Lee, he was known for training like a madman, right? Training like a crazy amount. And I read this thing in an article one time where he used to train 10 hours a day consistently for 6 years straight. No break days. And his diet was like just rice, chicken, and some like green. And he would eat the same thing over and no flavor. He didn't add any flavoring.
Like that
didn't
can't
do
be
nothing.
enjoyable.
Like he was extremely self-disciplined, and I think in the end it got to him because he used to take medication and painkillers and these kinds of things to alleviate the pain that his body was going through so he could train even more, right?
Oh, yeah.
And there's like a theory out there that, you know, I think in the autopsy it says that he died from medication or like wrong medication, something like that. But there's a theory that's saying that's not the fundamental reason why he died. The fundamental reason why he died was because he overtrained. He trained to death.
He just
Crazy.
killed his body.
Literally killed his body. Like, think about that, bro. 10 hours a day of training, physical training, right? Like, doing all these kinds of...
It's like martial arts type stuff, right?
Martial arts, working out, all that kind of stuff. Insanity, bro. That's crazy.
Yeah, like that's again back to the... Yeah, you can go for a little bit at that high intensity, but if you do it for years and years on end, you're just punishing your body.
You're done.
Your body's going to break eventually. Because we've said before, exercise is good for you, but then you just go over the top and then it just destroys your body. That's why you need those rest days, right?
Yeah. Another factor relating to burnout are high stress situations over a long period of time. So stress in the short term will increase your performance, right?
Yeah.
Will increase your awareness, will increase your reaction time, that kind of stuff. But stress over a long period of time is going to fatigue you like crazy, right? It's going to increase your aging. It's going to increase your likelihood of disease. It's a horrible, horrible thing. And it also will increase your likelihood of burnout. Should you have this chronic stress, like you're always worried, right?
Yeah, like I think with school, everyone has that bit where it's like stressed about a test, stressed about...
Yeah, but that's not long-term stress because the thing is with that, you have midterm season, you have exam season. So during 1 week, 2 weeks, even 3 weeks of stress and anxiety, that's still falling kind of in the short-term range.
Yeah, because it's a pinpoint little thing that you're stressed about as well. Like it's like if you're stressed about everything in your life.
Yeah, like if you have stress that continues on for months on end, years on end, oof, that's crazy. And some students, I would say, students are more likely to experience that because usually students, we don't play a single role in our lives, right?
Yeah, so you combine the school with extracurricular sports or activities and then family, it all ties together, right? It's like another thing after another thing, just bang, 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 stress after stress, right? And it just kind of goes on.
And that ties into our last factor here, which is actually playing multiple roles in your life, right? So as we mentioned, students usually play multiple roles. They play the role of a student. They play the role of maybe a part-time worker. They play the role of an athlete. They play the role of a sibling. And when you are juggling all of these different roles in your life, you are far more likely to lead to burnout. It's a very unsustainable thing to maintain.
Well, yeah, I think a way to kind of look at that is thinking about a light switch, right? Where when you're flicking it off and on really fast. Maybe not now, but in the past it used to be get told, hey, don't do that. You're going to burn the light switch.
Exactly.
That is what people are doing with their lives, right?
Yeah.
Anytime they're going from, say, school to work, flip the light switch.
Yeah.
Work to extracurricular, flick it again. Back home, flick. You're flicking this light switch off and on multiple times a day for decades.
For decades.
You're bound to blow the light bulb out, and you're going to burn out if you do that so consistently.
And once that light bulb is burnt out, you're done. You can't
don't got a
bring it back.
replacement.
Yeah, like you can't bring that light bulb back. It's completely out. You know, you can't stick some chargers on it and charge it back up. It's burnt.
Yeah,
right?
like with the lights. Yeah, you could just leave the light to calm down, let it cool down, fix itself, and it'll be good to go again. But as soon as it blows up, what are you gonna do? Replace the glass? Temporary. Like any resolutions for that seem temporary, right? It's all bound to break and crack again down the line.
Yeah, and the thing is with playing multiple roles in your life, generally speaking, this is a more conscious effort because I think everyone plays multiple roles in their life.
It's impossible to avoid that, right? Even in the working force, you still got multiple roles.
Right. So you're always playing multiple roles, but the difference is, are you conscious about those roles or are you just letting the roles happen, right? Because if you kind of aren't thinking about what roles am I playing and am I consciously, now I'm a student. Now I'm this. Now I'm this.
Take control and drive the, what's the word? Drive the motif, drive like the plan.
Yeah, instead of just going with the flow, because if you go with the flow, then more and more roles are going to keep showing up
and
inevitably.
Punched on each one, right?
Exactly.
Bang.
And you're just going to get beat.
Bang.
Okay.
So what are some of the possible ways to prevent burnout? I know we talked about some of them throughout this, but like kind of the key points. What are the big ones here?
So the first one is monitoring those three big characteristics, which is, exhaustion, depersonalization, and low accomplishment, right? Make sure you pay attention to those three, because if you start seeing those signs popping up, you got to watch out. You know what I'm saying? Like, you got a problem.
Yeah.
So that's something that you want to watch out for. Second one is communicate your feelings with others. It goes without saying that bottling in your feelings is a bad thing.
Yeah.
Everyone kind of knows that, right?
Yet, as so many people do it.
Yeah.
That's sort of the way to do it, right? Is he doing? It's like, yeah.
It is.
If I don't tell people that, I don't need to bug them with my stuff, and then it goes on. It's this downward spiral sort of mess.
Especially for guys.
Oh, 100%.
Right?
I know I'm
guys.
terrible at that. Like, I don't say anything to anyone unless it's like...
Unless it's really bad, yeah.
That's why my mom's like, anytime she calls me, she knows either I'm hurt or I did something wrong.
Yeah.
She's like... And anytime she'll say, I hate it because she knows it's one of the two. Because why am I also going to call my mom?
Yeah.
It's like, oh, Mom, I messed my nose up already. She's like, of course you did. I did this
funny.
thing. Of course you did. Okay.
There's
There's no other outcome, right? So that's a perfect example of that, right?
Yeah, the third one is fostering an autonomy-driven system. This basically means that usually this applies for younger individuals. If you're controlling someone, let's say you're the parent of an athlete or you are the teacher of a student, let the student have as much control over themselves as you possibly can. Like, there's a point where, you need to be the one who makes certain decisions, but as much as you possibly can, let them decide for themselves, because that way they don't feel like they're shackled down by these chains that are pulling them in one direction and the other. They're able to make their own decisions.
Yeah, they can go the way they want to, right? With
exactly.
That? So it doesn't really burn them out when they're able to make the decisions themselves. Like, if it's someone else making it, they get, like you said, dragged in whichever direction. But if they make it, they can just go walk in that direction, walk this way, kind of follow the path they want to, right?
Yeah.
So it's less draining on draining on their engine to make that decision themselves.
Exactly. Yeah. Another method to prevent burnout is to actually set short-term goals. Ironically, because the reason that short-term goals are good for burnout is that you see more immediate results. With long-term goals, oftentimes you don't see the result of those goals for months, maybe even years after those goals are set. So during that period, when you're not seeing any results happen, you're more likely to get stale and eventually burn out. Versus if you set short-term goals, you can see the result more immediately and you can know, okay, I am actually on the right path.
But that's why it's important to do things where you enjoy the journey, right? So then on those ones where you do have the long-term goals, you don't feel burnt out because you're enjoying what you're doing on a day-to-day basis to get towards that
Yeah.
goal.
Yeah.
Like if you do have to do those short-term goals, I feel like it should be like a must-have thing. It's like if my situation's dire, do that, because then unless you want to change your whole path to do something where you truly enjoy it, right?
Yeah. And short-term goals don't have to necessarily be separated from long-term goals, right? Your short-term goal could be one of the steps.
Yeah, building
your,
blocks.
Your building blocks.
Building the pyramid up to your goal.
So, the two can work side by side very well. The last method we have for preventing burnout is actually value your relaxation and your breaks. Value them and realize that it is through those breaks that you are able to have further steps when you go back in. This is hugely seen in the gym scene, right?
Yeah.
It's not wise to train the same muscle group every single day, 7 days a week.
Well, it's that, and people
Doesn't
refuse
make
to take
sense.
their rest days, right? They're like, oh no, I got to go back to the gym.
Exactly, because
You
they
don't?
think that when they go back to the gym, they're gonna get their results quicker.
Well, with
in
that,
reality, that's not the case.
yeah, like you go do that, you're like, oh no, I don't want to rest. I'm going to go to the gym. Your results aren't going to be as good because you're going to be tired, and you're not getting the healing that you need.
Yeah.
So it's a lose-lose. You're not getting either of the things, right? I think that's why so many people seem to half-ass their relaxation, their disconnection from it, right?
Yeah.
Like I'm going to do it, yet I'm going to take a break, kind of go do things I want to do, yet they'll still be looking at social media while they're doing whatever it is. Connected to the internet, the gym, they're skipping their rest day to be kind of not as good.
You have to be very mindful of it.
And I think when you say, I'm going to take a break, I'm going to relax, you got to go in full like you would any other action, right?
Yeah.
To get the most out of it.
Doesn't make sense to do anything else.
Because, yeah, you're cheating the relaxation and you're cheating the results from the things if you're doing something else outside of it.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
I know we talked about this kind of stuff, burnout, all this stuff. If you think someone you know or yourself, think you're experiencing this, probably try to go get some professional help, something to help resolve this. I know it's tough. You don't want to talk to people and things about it. So
Yeah. And this is a quick tip, actually, especially if you live in Canada, because we have a public healthcare system, is to go see your family doctor first. So the reason is that your family doctor, if they refer you to a therapist or to someone else, then you're going to speed track your way through it. Versus if you go directly to, a therapist or some other kind of expert to talk to, you might be on a wait list for significantly longer.
Well, I'm pretty sure a lot of these places you can still get into pretty quick because I know they're
not our
pretty serious.
university, man.
Well, no, that's the university itself.
Yeah.
Like if you go to like the private clinics or whatever for that type of stuff, right? Because all that stuff's private.
Yeah.
Usually,
But you also want to be careful because then your insurance might
because you just
get
need to check
annoyed,
your insurance,
right?
No,
Because if your insurance sees a referral from a family doctor, then they don't have a case to not cover it because it's seen as a direct,
well, no, it depends on what you're.
health
I don't
reason,
think.
right? Because it won't be seen as an amenity. Because they won't cover like if you just feel like going in, they won't cover it.
Well, it depends on what your plan is.
Yeah, that is true.
Check your plan before you go see this and see what your best bet is because it's expensive.
Yeah.
And you don't want to go broke for something if you could go to your doctor and they'll cover it, right?
Exactly.
And if someone you know is doing these, like being kind of disconnected, being kind of not themselves, don't take it personally. They can't really control it, right? This is just kind of they're going through some stuff. So be there, don't run away, right? Just be there for them, whatever it is that's going on.
Yeah, exactly. If they lash out at you, if they disrespect you, it's not something to really be taken too harshly because, one of the characteristics of burnout is literally depersonalization. Like the person is not who they actually are in that moment.
And they don't down the line, they'll probably, they don't actually mean it seriously, right? So it's just take it with a pinch of like a grain of salt. I was thinking pinch of sand, something like that.
Pinch of sand.
But yeah, it's like don't worry about it too much and just kind of go from there.
Yeah, exactly. Awesome. Well, today, to summarize, we talked about burnout and staleness. Well, burnout is the complete disconnect, physically, emotionally, and social withdrawal from previously enjoyable activities. This is something that you guys want to avoid from with all your might and power, right? The 3 big characteristics to watch out for in burnout exhaustion, physical and emotional exhaustion. Depersonalization. This person they act impersonal. They don't feel like who they used to be. And third of all, feeling of low personal accomplishment. Their performance decreases, and their job productivity decreases. These are 3 things you want to watch out for. Thank you guys so much for tuning into today's episode. If you guys want to catch us, we have a full video podcast out on YouTube.
With a nice looking set now.
With
upgrades.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. We upgraded the set. We have our full audio podcast on essentially all platforms. And you guys can catch us for daily content on Instagram as well as TikTok, where we would love to connect with you guys.
Yeah, that's perfect for if you don't want to have to listen to us talk for half an hour, 25 minutes a day. Flip on to the TikTok, Instagram, see little 30-second minute clips for what you want to hear from us. The best parts.
Exactly.